Hey Cowboys Nation, let's go for another round of news from America's team. Watch until the end so you don't miss any news and sign up to stay tuned for everything that comes out about the Cowboys.
Cowboys have the NFL's best guard duo according to PFF. The Dallas Cowboys do one thing well, and that's draft offensive linemen. It started back in 2011 when former left tackle Tyron Smith was drafted, and it has lasted for over a decade. Currently, two of their first-round selections over that span, All-Pro guards Zach Martin and Tyler Smith, have formed a wall on the interior to protect quarterback Dak Prescott, and they recently got some pretty high praise. Pro Football Focus dropped its list of the top guards in the NFL entering the 2024 season this week. Both Martin and Smith were ranked inside the top 10. 4. Tyler Smith, Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys drafted Smith in 2022 without having a carved-out position for him. He played the entire 2022 season at left tackle, deputizing for the oft-injured Tyron Smith, but slid inside to left guard in 2023 and never looked back. Smith earned a 72.9 PFF overall grade and garnered second-team All-Pro honors in his second NFL season, cementing his place as one of the league's best offensive linemen. His 2.8% allowed pressure rate ranked 5th among all guards, and he allowed only 17 quarterback pressures all season. Smith played mostly at left tackle as a rookie in 2022 due to injuries. He played well, but once he was kicked inside last season, it was clear that guard was the more natural spot for him. Once he gets his hands on a defensive lineman, Smith usually makes short work of them with his nastiness and power. What's scary for the rest of the league is that Smith still has a ton of room to grow his game. Specifically, he needs to get his penalty woes under control, having drawn 21 flags in 2 seasons. However, there's no doubt that Smith has catapulted into an elite guard in a short amount of time. 7. Zach Martin, Dallas Cowboys. After 8 years of earning 80.0 plus PFF overall grades, Martin dropped to 73.3 in 2022 and 69.8 in 2023. Despite that dip, he's still one of the most dominant guards in NFL history. Martin's 2023 grade still ranked 17th among guards, and his 77.2 pass blocking grade placed 9th. From Tony Romo to Dak Prescott, Martin has been the constant presence on the Cowboys' offensive line. And as long as he's healthy, he'll remain one of the best guards in the NFL until he hangs up his cleats. Martin is the model of consistency. He has 9 All-Pro selections in 10 seasons, with 7 of them being of the first-team variety. This means he's been the best or second-best player at his position his entire career, which is astonishing. That's due to his excellent technique and ability to not only dominate the line of scrimmage, but on the second level by creating more running lanes. When it comes to interior defensive linemen getting pressure on Prescott during passing plays on Martin's side, they'd have a better chance of running through a brick wall because he isn't having it. His retirement is certainly on the horizon, but Martin is still one of the most dominant offensive linemen in the league. These rankings show that the argument can be made that Smith and Martin are the top guard duo in football, and it's likely to stay that way until the latter decides to ride off into the sunset. Proposed Cowboys trade sees CeeDee Lamb unloaded for 2-time champion WR. If the Dallas Cowboys are forced to trade CeeDee Lamb, an AFC foe would be an ideal trade partner. Lamb skipped the team's mandatory minicamp and missed all of the team's voluntary organized team activities. His absence comes at a time when the 25-year-old receiver is seeking a new contract. The 3-time Pro Bowler is entering the final year of his rookie contract, which will pay him slightly less than $18 million. In a list of trade scenarios compiled by Bleacher Report's Brad Gagnon, one of the deals proposed is none other than the Cowboys dealing Lamb in exchange for Los Angeles Chargers' second-round rookie receiver Ladd McConkey and a first-round pick. The argument is simple. The Cowboys would benefit from cap savings by unloading Lamb for a rookie or receiver prospect. And they would also trade the star to an out-of-conference rival who is unlikely to contend for a Super Bowl during the 2024 season. It's worth mentioning that this would be a last-resort option for the Cowboys if they can't work out a deal with Lamb and the star receiver demands a trade. Dallas would struggle to turn down the immediate cap savings and the significant 2025 draft capital influx, especially with a bright young receiver in Ladd McConkey coming back to try to strike gold with Dak Prescott. Writes Gagnon, Ladd McConkey served as star receiver with Georgia Bulldogs. McConkey was selected with the 34th overall pick in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft by the Chargers. The 6-foot, 185-pound receiver doesn't exactly possess prototypical size for a starting receiver, but he was a highly accomplished target while playing for the Georgia Bulldogs. The 22-year-old won 2 national championships while starring at Georgia, including his 2022 season where he posted 58 receptions for 762 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. McConkey posted 5 receptions for 88 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in the 65-7 national championship game win over the TCU Horned Frogs. As Gagnon mentions, the Chargers, who would be seeking a viable receiver for star quarterback Justin Herbert, would acquire one of the best weapons in the league in Lamb after losing his top 2 receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, during the offseason. In this case, it would be a chance for Jim Harbaugh and company to maximize their support for Justin Herbert at a critical juncture of his career, writes Gagnon. And like New England, the Los Angeles Chargers have the cap space while also not being considered a primary contender. Why Cowboys could be forced to consider CeeDee Lamb trade. According to Spotrac, Lamb's projected contract value is $136 million over 4 years at an average annual value of $34 million. Considering the Minnesota Vikings just signed Justin Jefferson to a $140 million deal across 4 years, $35 million per year, the Cowboys would likely be forced to tack on some extra dollars to surpass that deal. The Cowboys would obviously like to re-sign their star receiver, but they also have to worry about upcoming mega money deals for star quarterback Dak Prescott, who will likely earn at least $50 million annually, and linebacker Micah Parsons, who is projected to earn $32 million annually on his next deal, according to ESPN's Bill Barnwell. Again, the Cowboys will do everything in their power to re-sign Lamb, but in a worst-case scenario, trading Lamb to a non-Super Bowl contender from the AFC in the Chargers would be a reasonable scenario. Jake Ferguson has the opportunity to earn his place as a top tight in the NFL in 2024. The Dallas Cowboys' 2022 fourth-round pick, Jake Ferguson, has quickly become a fan favorite after he took over the starting tight end job last season. Not only has he become a serious weapon for Dak Prescott, but his tough, gritty attitude is exactly what this team has been missing in recent years. Currently standing at number 11 on Pro Football Network's Tay rankings, right ahead of his predecessor, Dalton Schultz, Ferguson has the opportunity to show the football world that he should sit even higher on that list after 2024. Ferguson had an outstanding season last year with 71 receptions, 761 yards, and 5 touchdowns in the regular season, but what really stood out to fans was his intensity and passion that he showed on every single play and his commitment to his teammates and to the star. It could be argued that his attitude during the Seattle Seahawks game gave the Cowboys the extra edge that was needed to pull ahead and get the win. Ferguson ran with the opportunity to be the Cowboys' Tay one, and now he is so far ahead, it might be impossible for the others to catch up. In an interview on NFL Network after the season ended, he credited the scheme and his relationship with Prescott for his leap from year 1 to year 2. He spent a lot of time learning to fully understand the scheme and how his role fits within it, whether he was the first read or the third read. That also meant making sure he was in sync with Prescott. They spent a lot of time building their relationship on and off the field so the plays became automatic. All of that hard work really shined on the field on Sundays, and sometimes Mondays and Thursdays, and it was a thing of beauty to watch at times. There are multiple signature Ferguson plays, and many involve leaping over defenders or Prescott threading the ball through defenders to hit Ferguson down the seam. Ferguson was quoted last season saying he would stay with Prescott till the wheels fall off. And in what would be the final game of the season for the Cowboys, the wild card game against the Green Bay Packers, he stood by those exact words. He was one of the only players that showed up to play, catching 10 of his 12 targets for 93 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to carry the team to the next round of the playoffs, but again, it was his attitude immediately after the game that proved the type of character he is. Next year starts now. So far this offseason, Ferguson has been a man of his word. The work he has already put into his strength and conditioning was praised by Mike McCarthy at the podium at the start of the Cowboys minicamp this past week. Additionally, McCarthy credited his consistency, passion, and energy for his growth since he was first drafted. Ferguson has a real chance to become one of the best TEs in the entire league in 2024 and beyond. He had already seen more red zone targets than any other TE in the NFL last season. It could be argued that outside of CeeDee Lamb, he is the top receiving weapon for Prescott in this offense and should see even more targets now that the trust has been solidified. Even though Ferguson proved to the world that he can be a star on this team, he hasn't even come close to what many believe his ceiling could be. After a full season at T1, having another year to perfect his craft under McCarthy's offensive scheme, and continuing to build his connection with QB1, the sky isn't even the limit for how far Ferguson can go. If Ferguson is able to build and improve on what he accomplished last year, that would make for an incredibly entertaining season for Cowboys fans. There is no doubt that he could leap a handful of other TEs to become one of the top 5, possibly even higher. When all is said and done and the 2024 season comes to a close, where do you think Jake Ferguson will rank among the rest of the TEs in the NFL?